Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let me share with you what former President Donald Trump is experiencing as, guess what? The GOP is not filling him and his candidacy for president. I'm going to break down some numbers and we'll give some analysis about it. Also, are black students being brainwashed to join the military? The JROTC program is under scrutiny and fire, according to a new New York Times analysis that shows that more black and brown students are being recruited than white students. And some people are not feeling that type of service. We'll have that conversation. Plus, should you be penalized for being antisocial at work? And one man did. He felt like he didn't have to be involved in team-related or fun activities, and guess what? He lost his job. As a result of that, he decided to file a lawsuit against his former employer and won. We'll bring up the conversation. And we got that and a whole lot more, so stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, peace and welcome to the show. Welcome to the show and happy Tuesday, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you for tuning in. We truly appreciate it. We got a lot to talk about today because these are some good conversations that we're seeing all across the country about what is happening with our culture. So make sure that y'all tune in. Get ready to join us in the chat in a few moments, because we would love to hear from you. The only show, the digital daily show, where you can be a part of the conversation. So make sure you join us, and we'll make sure that we highlight some of your comments and your insights on these discussions. All right, first and foremost, let's talk about former President Donald Trump, who is in some turmoil and trouble, folks. Yep, Trump is in trouble. It looks like his bid for the 2024 presidential election might be just already getting off to a rocky start, not because of necessarily any particular investigation, or not just because people just falling out of love with him. They just don't feel like he is a viable candidate. And according to the latest polls, it looks like that sentiment is not just coming from the Democrats or independents, it's actually coming from the GOP. Let me share with you what we got to say, what's been discussed about President Trump within the ranks of his own party. Take a look at this, folks, and this is coming out of USA Today. By a 2-to-1, GOP and GOP-leaning voters now say they want Trump's policies, but a different standard bearer to carry them. Can you separate the message from the man? Well, we'll talk about it. While 31% want the former president to run, 61% prefer some other Republican nominee who will continue the policies Trump has pursued. They have a name in mind. 2/3 of Republicans and those inclined to vote Republican want Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to run for president. By double digits, 56% to 33%, they prefer DeSantis over Trump. Among all voters, Trump has fallen further behind President Joe Biden in a hypothetical head-to-head. Now, Biden would win a general election matchup by 47% to 40% because of the effects of rounding. Biden's margin is a bit wider than that indicates. But in October, Biden also led by a narrow margin, 46% to 42%. Here we go. Take a look at this, folks. Since October, Biden's favorable ratings has ticked up a percentage point to 46%, and his unfavorable ratings down a point to 50%. But support among Democrats for him to seek a second term has declined to 40% from 45%. Among all voters, just 23% want him to run again. Now, while Biden now leads Trump, he trails DeSantis in a head-to-head race, with DeSantis at 47%, Biden at 43%. All right, now let's break these numbers down. Take a look. Trump in trouble. The Republican support for his 2024 bid falls amid political legal setbacks. He's just not as shiny as he used to be. He's not as shiny as he used to be, folks. You remember President Trump. He came in like, I'm going to be the outsider. I'm going to be the guy to shake Washington up. And guess what? He shook Washington up. He might have shook himself right out of Washington with all of the stuff that's going on with him. Ron DeSantis looks like to be the new kid on the block and the guy that may be able to carry this situation further along. But I'm confused as to how you can separate the man from his message. You want Trump policies, but you don't want Trump. So you get Ron DeSantis. Wow. Let's bring in Culture crew member Iman Heath. She is an entrepreneur, an activist, and you can check her out every Tuesday here on The Culture. Iman, good to hear from you. How you feeling this afternoon?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Is that possible? Can you separate the man from his message? Can you be like, yeah, I want the message, but the man not so much?
The math ain't mathing. It's like if I can't get what I really want, I'm gonna get the closest thing. That's right. The logic I think people are rolling with, but I feel like DeSantis is going to get a little bit more done than Trump, if you ask me, because he actually is in politics. So it's I don't know. They want to get the closest mimic to Trump as close as possible.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like you're going to get a DeSantis, and DeSantis is a little bit, and I think this is the part that we should all be kind of weary of, because DeSantis is the governor. He ran again. Of course, he won his his re-election in this past November election. He won by a landslide. Apparently Florida came out for this guy. So
let's not forget that a lot of people couldn't vote because of
his voter suppression tactics.
Yeah. Let's not forget that part.
Right. So the thing is like he's actually, quote unquote, we can say, I'm going to just use the term dangerous. Right now, the thing about DeSantis that I think that separates him from Trump is that Trump really doesn't have a respect for authority and structure. I don't know if that's the case for DeSantis. I'm not. Trump wants to be king. DeSantis wants to be president, and I feel like those are two different. I feel like those are two different things, right? Like Trump wants to rip up the Constitution, and maybe DeSantis wants to rip up the Constitution too. But I think DeSantis is more knowledgeable and say, look, if I go so far, I'm really going to put myself in some hot water.
Yeah. And I hope that's not the route he wants to take. However, looking at what he's already tried to get done in Florida, he recently is working on getting a petition for the Supreme Court to investigate any COVID-19 vaccine fraud amongst big pharma rather than actual civilians. So he's starting to rally up and shake the cage as being that person who's on the outside and I'm all for you and let's round up the troops and let's round up the Proud Boys and let's get her done because y'all were forced to get these vaccines, and even though you didn't want to get it, like it's Trump but just shinier. It's Trump but a little cleaner. It's Trump but it's just said in a different way. It's honestly, I think we're gonna get, hopefully not, but if he does wind up he runs for the presidency, it's going to be the same thing. It's just not going to be the things he says isn't just going to be as outrageous or as blunt as Trump, but it's going to be the same person.
It's going to be the same person, and we both know that as president, you're going to have to appeal to a much larger audience. Florida is a GOP conservative state; it's a stronghold, right? But when you run for president of the United States, your messaging, your policy proposals, all of that is going to have to be tailored to a mass appeal, right?
Right.
And so everything that you did, and I'm speaking of DeSantis, everything this guy did in Florida, he's going to have to amplify it 10 to 20 times if he just decides to run for president, because now you got to speak to Black folks, you got to speak to Latino folks, you got to speak to all of these different groups of people from around the country. It just can't be the Florida folks that came out to support you. It's got to be a mass appeal audience. Now I want to get your take on this, Amon, because as much as we talk about DeSantis and Trump, it don't look like the Biden-Trump situation part 2 may not even happen, because it's just, it don't look like it's going to happen. Trump's got too much baggage at this point. Biden is far beyond getting some wins under his belt right now.
Yeah, he fell off a bike that wasn't moving. So his whole
Are you talking about Trump or are you talking about Biden?
Biden fell off a bike that wasn't moving. So this whole appeal to Americans at this point is like, sir, you're just not the right fit. But I think with Trump, even with him recently losing his battle in court as far as some of his Trump corporations, they were found guilty for tax fraud. So I think those mishaps and mistakes, especially with January 6th, and that case keep getting postponed over and over again, and it's now a year later, and we gotta stretch it further for these witnesses to do this and do that. So Trump then got too messy. Trump got too messy. So Republicans, I believe, are only gonna go to DeSantis because that's the only choice they have, and I don't think DeSantis has to now listen or speak to minorities if he does run for president. My thing is, he can't ignore us anymore, because in Florida you got a heavy presence of Latinos, heavy presence on Haitians in Florida. They have a large presence down there, but he's ignoring them because, again, his voter suppression. When we were told that everything's fine after the hurricane, I forget the name of the hurricane, but we were told that, everything's fine, everything's good, when that wasn't the case in a lot of areas for those minority groups that didn't get what they needed to be able to vote. So he does shaky stuff in Florida. Yeah. So I can only imagine what he'll do for the nation. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Now, here's the thing, I want to get your take on this, and we're going to take a quick pause, but I think that the strategy of getting people out to vote and getting people engaged in this next presidential election, I honestly believe, Iman, this election that we just went through in November might be, it felt different in the sense like, I don't foresee a lot of people coming out for even this next presidential election. And I'm saying that with all due understanding and sincerity and just, I think that this last election, we were just like, all right, cool, we're going to try this thing one more time. But I just don't see people getting excited. I feel like we're not going to see the level of voter turnout that we might see. And then not just because of the candidates, because the Democrats are going to really have to come up with a plan B. Even though Biden say he wants to run, even though Biden is getting some wins under his belt, no, that's not your go-to guy. That's not your go-to guy right now. No. So Democrats are going to have to figure out, and I'm saying somebody that's already on the scene, they're going to have to figure out who is going to be the candidate of choice, or the number of candidates. It might not just be one person. It comes down to one person for the nomination. But I'm saying you're going to have to figure out at least a good 4 or 5 different people that Democrats can say, okay, these are our choices. And I'm not even going into that conversation, but it's just more of important. I just don't know if people are going to be so engaged and turn out to the way that folks expect them.
So Democrats have to start finding those faces now, though. We have to start putting those faces in the news as much as possible now. Get people familiar with who they're possibly voting for now. Don't wait last minute to oh damn, here go the deadline. Let's push this person. Let's just see what happens. We got to get at least 4 solid people who may be an option to run and get them in the forefront now before DeSantis hauls ass and everybody's just, well, damn, we ain't got no other choice.
And I hate identity politics, but you're gonna have to get a black candidate, a strong white candidate. You might have to get a Latino candidate. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to get you're going to have to just give people an a la carte set of options.
For real. Amazon list of options.
I just don't see a one candidate, a one size fits all type of candidate right now. I just don't see it. And Culture Crew, y'all tell me, y'all see a one size fit all type of candidate right now for the Democrat side? let me know. Look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's go to some of our comments from our online culture crew. We'll continue the conversation with Iman. But folks, what do you think of this? You know, Trump is in trouble with his numbers. GOP don't want to see him. They'd rather see DeSantis. What would the Democrats, how will the Democrats respond? Considering that President Biden, if he had the vote today, he might actually lose the presidential election. Let's have that conversation. So we're going to have that and a whole lot more. We're just getting started here on The Culture. So stay with us. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Peace and welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Folks, we have been having a conversation talking about the latest numbers around former President Donald Trump and among his own party, the GOP, and how there are a significant amount of GOP members who are saying, you know what, we want Trump policies, but not Trump himself. GOP are now putting forth, are saying in a number of different ways that they would rather see a person like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis taking the mantle to be the next presidential nominee for the GOP instead of President Trump. What will this do to the party when Trump is not praised and lauded and admired and rolling? The folks aren't rolling off the red carpet for him. Well, folks, only time will tell. But if we look at the pattern and thinking of former President Donald Trump, we know that that may start a culture war, a serious war within the GOP. We may see Trump start to blast Ron DeSantis. I mean, it may just create a whole situation. Now, on the other side of things, President Biden, if based on some of the latest polls coming from USA Today and Suffolk University, they found that President Biden, if he were to go to a head-to-head matchup with President Trump, he would win. But if he were to go into a head-to-head matchup with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, he would lose. So it puts the Democrats in a tight spot and trying to figure out, do we keep pushing for Biden to move forward in the re-election process, or we start looking elsewhere for a candidate that can speak to it? Folks, we want you to join us in the conversation as I'm talking to Culture Crew member Iman Heath. Iman, this is going to be the conundrum. This is really, I feel like this conversation is going to go just spill over for the next year and a half. We're going to be having dozens of iterations of, what will the Democrats do? My suggestion was you just got to throw out all the different candidates that represent various schools of thought, whether you're talking about progressive or you're talking about like the, Democrat socialist or whatever the case may be. But the Democrats are going to have to try to appeal to as many people as possible, because even though President Biden is racking up some wins, some legislative wins, some cultural wins, especially with the release of Brittany Griner, even though he's doing these things, people still just don't feel like he's the guy to take the country forward come 2024. And guess what? I understand. But I wonder if he understands that, Iman. Like, you got to talk to this guy. You know what I'm saying? You would have to sit him down and be like, Mr. President, you're doing all right, but you're not the guy.
This ain't it. And like I said months ago, they used Brittany Griner as a pawn. Russia used Brittany Griner as a pawn to get back what they really wanted. And I feel as though Biden may have pushed to get her home so hard so he can gain support of the LGBTQ community. But even with that, you're just a default candidate at this time. You're the only face that Democrats see at this time. So you're going to get that support and that backing, because at this time, it looks as though like you're the only option. So yeah, Biden, I don't think Biden has a chance whatsoever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's go to the online Culture Crew members, hear what folks got to say. Mingley Natasha Serge, you checked in and said, Trump has been in trouble since January 6th, and before that, yet nothing happens. Yeah, well, we know that. We know that. I'm waiting for the Al Capone moment. That's what I'm waiting for. Y'all know who Al Capone, how Al Capone felt like he did all this other stuff, and then it was like tax evasion. You know what I mean? It was like he just didn't keep up on his records. You know what I'm saying? But he did everything else. He killed people. He was peddling alcohol. I mean, he was doing all this other stuff. And it's like, yo, you didn't file your taxes right.
Right. Oh, that's the hiccup. Oh, my bad.
Wrong accountant. But yeah, I mean, we will see. And speaking of the January 6th committee, I just found, they talked about releasing a report come next week. I think that's what the time frame they put out there about, where they are with everything relating to the hearings and to the findings based on those testimonies. So we're going to keep our eyes on that as well. But, look, here's the thing, Iman, when it comes to January the 6th. It's like, you ever been in a courtroom, and I don't know if you ever, not saying that you were the one that's fighting for your life. I'm just saying, have you ever been in a courtroom where the lawyer, whether it's for the defendant or for the plaintiff, they ask the question, the judge said, you can't ask that, scratch that from the record. And so, but the question
It's been a lot of scratching, Farajii. It's been a lot of scratching.
The question has already been asked. The thought has already been expressed. So when we talk about January 6th, the point I'm making is that when you talk about January 6th, the American people know Trump was behind that. It's just a matter of proving it in quote unquote, in the court of public opinion, right? Which is what the January 6th committee has been trying to do. And it's also a matter of proving it in the court of law. Mm-hmm. But we all know, had Trump not said what he said, then those people wouldn't have stormed the Capitol the way they did. So you can't scratch that. You can't just say, oh, Y'all forget this from, you can scratch it from the record, but you can't scratch it from the hearts and the minds of the American people. And that's the part.
And those are the voters. That's what matters. The American people are the voters. That is what matters.
Exactly. And so if you put all of your eggs in the Trump basket, you're not, you are going to be missing some eggs, man. Like he took them files, your eggs are gone, dog.
You took the files and ain't tell nobody. Had the files chilling down there at the house. As if nobody would ever come across.
You're not going to get it. Absolutely.
Yeah, no.
Lana, you checked in and said, look, 1,000 people come in here prior to Warnock, Walker elections, and now just the faithful, the culture crew told y'all, Black Democratic strategy don't even keep us engaged unless it's talk. That's true. And she's talking about just the number of folks that we've had on this show. I mean, number of watchers that we've had. Our watchers have grown tremendously over these past few weeks because of what we saw down in Georgia. But more importantly, you always got to appeal. And here's the thing, and Iman, you know this, mass movements do not happen with large numbers. They start with small numbers. Y'all hear me on this. If you look at the history of any level of movement in this country or any other country, it did not start with the masses of people. It started with a small number. Hell, Jesus only had 12 disciples, and you know what I'm saying? It's a very, very small group of people who can make the biggest group, make the biggest impact and make the biggest change. So movements that we've seen in this country, social justice, whatever the case may be, those numbers are, you can't look at numbers. And that's one of the big things that I just want us to keep in mind. What's your take on that, Iman?
I agree. It takes that one person to connect to another person, then they connect to another person. That's how it grows. Sharing the same mindset and sharing the same ideas, or even having a different perspective for the same idea. But as long as the objective is the same, that's what matters. So I do agree that movements start with a small amount. It's not going to be a gang of people that's going to hop on the same train or the same bandwagon all the time. It is going to take work, especially when it comes to politics, especially for minorities, especially for Black people. We have to stay encouraged and understand that we have to stay on the right foot and keep pushing the message that we need to get things done, but also do the work. We can pray all day long, but in order to get the movement and actually obtain something or get a goal achieved, we have to understand we have to just keep pedaling. Just because we may see not as much engagement as far as just not just out the show in general. I'm speaking in general. We have to keep going. It starts with one person, and if the ball keeps rolling like a snowball, start at the top of the hill, the snowball is pretty small. But as it keeps rolling down, it gains more momentum and it gets larger as the size goes. So we got to keep.
Absolutely. Chris, you checked in and said, look, I definitely don't want DeSantis running, but Trump shouldn't even be in a position to possibly run again. Facts. That's what I said for the presidency. Trump should be thrown under the prison right now. I hear you.
White privilege will keep him out of jail, though. And that money. White privilege and his money is going to keep him out of jail. And come to find out, Trump doesn't even have that much money, to be honest. But it's that privilege going to keep him out of there.
And speaking of money, Iman, you brought this, you're bringing this up. Like, I literally saw a figure where it was like, Forbes said he has over $3 billion. And I was like, really? I don't, like, he's
in assets or in life insurance policies?
I have no idea. But let me tell you, when you look at the history of Trump, it's always been a question mark about actually how rich is he. Always been a question mark. So you really don't know. Like, you can Google Jeff Bezos, you can Google Bill Gates, you can Google Warren Buffett, but you Google Donald Trump, you want to get a number, but it may not be accurate.
Yeah, it's gonna have a couple stars next to it. It's definitely gonna have a star next to it.
A couple of footnotes.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's not going to be accurate, though. Especially the tax fraud situation. Yeah, nah.
No.
You ain't even kicking out what you're supposed to be kicking out. So I know all you have ain't even yours. So it's.
I mean, look. Remember, he made that statement. Man, when did he make it? It was some time ago where he was like, "I don't really." He basically said, "I don't pay taxes. Like, I don't. The taxes that he actually pays is so small compared to the wealth that he said he has." And people were like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I just use the loopholes."
He did say it blatantly. He did. Back in his TV days, he did say that.
I just there are loopholes in the tax laws and structure, and I take advantage of them. I'm like, and see, it's a hell of a thing to be an honest liar.
And that's what got him. That's what got him to be the president. That's what got him there. And now
the one thing you can count on is that he gonna lie. So I'm not going to talk about the psychology behind this, but to be an honest liar is a hell of a thing.
That's what I love about.
Right. All right. Let's go take one more comment. Tony, you checked in. Tony Appleby, you said, "Look, I've never seen so many people wanting another human being's downfall. I thought we were the people of forgiveness, love. Why so much hate? None of these guys never took serious Obama or Biden." Look, man, come on, Tony. Look, Tony, forgiveness and love. All right, let me say this very quickly because we got like 30 seconds to do this. You only extend forgiveness if somebody shows that they are remorseful. If the perpetrator, the person who has done the violation, has not said, "I'm sorry, I was wrong," why do we automatically extend forgiveness when they haven't even admitted to the wrong that they've committed? Trump has never said that he was sorry about anything. He might have said it in a narcissistic way, like, "I'm sorry, I'm so great. I'm so sorry, I'm great." But we are so quick to talk about forgiveness, love, all of those things when the person hasn't even qualified themselves to receive any sort of leniency or pardon. What forgiveness, Tony? What are you talking about?
That's why black people are extended. That's why we're at now. Yeah, that's why we're where we're at now. We want to forgive and show love so much when we haven't been even extended. An olive branch haven't even been extended to us. That's our problem as a whole. So yeah, no,
that's what I'm saying. As black folks in this country, and I've heard this argument time and time again. Black folks, we do it all the time. We talk about forgiveness when somebody hasn't even said, "I'm sorry."
Yeah,
I'm not doing. I wasn't raised like that. You punch me in my mouth, and I'm gonna forgive you before you apologize to me. That goes against human nature. That goes against logic. That goes against the street code. That goes against the G code. You do not extend forgiveness to somebody who don't even see that they are wrong in violating you. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. So why people hate on this dude? Like, if this dude actually was apologetic about the things he said, the policies he's put in place, the ideas that he has continued to espouse, if he apologized for anything, it'll be one thing. He hasn't apologized for anything. Not one thing. And we talking about forgiveness and love. I'm so sorry, Tony.
No.
Not going to happen. That's a non-starter for me, sir. No. Non-starter. You must say no. All right, look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's switch gears. Let's talk about a trend that we may not even be knowing about, that we may not know about, which is what we're seeing with military and schools, how some JROTC programs are going into schools which house, Black and brown students, and they're doing recruitment efforts. The problem is, according to this New York Times analysis, more Black and brown children and students are recruited for military services than white students. Why is that? We'll have that conversation. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back. All right, the next conversation that we wanted to have was about something that personally I did not know was happening, but then I found it to be interesting, and I thought to myself, we need to talk about this. And this is the relationship that the military has with local school districts all across this country to allow JROTC programs to come into their schools and to essentially recruit students to be a part of the JROTC program. Now, this is something that has caught the attention of national media, such as the New York Times, who did an analysis to show that, in particular, the Army, how their data shows that more than 80%, and take a look at these numbers, folks. This is coming from the New York Times around this issue of schools pushing military courses to non-white and low-income students. Why is that, folks? Why is that? According to the New York Times analysis of Army data and 200 plus public records, more than 80% of high schools with at least 75% of first-year students enrolled in JROTC had a predominantly Black or Hispanic student body. Meanwhile, the percentages at other JROTC high schools and those without the program were more than 50% and around 30% respectively. Now, however, the Times discovered that thousands of public school students were placed in the courses either as an explicit mandate or by automatic registration. Pentagon officials eagerly promote the $400 million program, which has tripled in size since the 1970s, despite their long-standing insistence that it is not a recruiting tool. According to the Army, 44% of the troops who joined its ranks in recent years attended a JROTC school. Now, this is becoming a real issue, folks, because parents are feeling like their child, Black children, brown children, do not have a choice in the situation. One parent in particular that was highlighted in this piece by the Griot was saying that her child never expressed any interest to get into the military, to do any type of military service, and was mandated to be a part of the JROTC program. The bigger question that I'm posing is, why is this happening? Why are the students feeling like they are being, quote unquote, brainwashed? This is the language that was used by parents and other concerned community members. But why do folks feel like their child is being brainwashed to serve in the military, especially at such a young age, without their choice? Let's go back to Culture Crew member Iman Heath. Iman, first and foremost, now I went to a public high school in Baltimore called Baltimore School for the Arts. So that wasn't happening. You know, having a military presence outside of the police, school police, and you saw some police every so often. That was just about it. I went to the same high school that Jada and Tupac went to before they blew up. I was hoping to follow the same path, but I actually completed high school. Then went to college. It took me 30 years to get out to Hollywood.
But you made it. You made it.
But I made it.
You made it.
But anyway. But yeah, so I didn't have this experience. But however, like my cousins, you know, there were schools, of course, in Baltimore City, high schools throughout the city. There was a JROTC program. Did you have that in your high school?
Yes. So I went to a public city and county high school, and there were JROTC programs. My mother, she went to Forest Park, and they had a JROTC program as well. So they are there. They definitely exist.
So this program has been around, like I said, since the 1970s, and you're looking at the amount of time that they spent. And even though, again, the Army has said, look, this has not been a recruiting tool, but it's kind of interesting to say that because it reminds me of in Baltimore, and I'm not sure how they have this in other police departments across the country, but in Baltimore, they used to have a program called the Explorers Program for students, right? And the Explorers Program is like basically you can go and be a part of this young cadet program for the police department, right? You're learning certain skills and everything. It's hard to say that it's not a recruiting tool for those young people who are trying to figure out what their next career move would be after high school, right? And you can get into the Explorer program. I think it was like as young as 16, but of course it went from like 16 to 18 years old. But it's like a grooming program, you know, a program where if you're thinking about doing any type of public service, law enforcement, you go to the program. It's already kind of known. So I think it's interesting that the Army takes this stance and say, oh, it's not a recruiting tool, but grooming a young person for military service. Now, I get it. There's discipline. There's leadership potential and training. This is one of the big things that they highlighted as being a part of the JROTC. But you're not going to put that type of investment in anybody unless you hope they start making taking the whole journey forward. So I'm a little confused as to why they decided to put out that word. Say, oh, no, it's not a recruiting tool. It's like, yeah, it is a recruiting tool. And I have nothing but love and respect for those who are doing service, but you shouldn't force people to do military service. Everybody is not cut for that lifestyle. Everybody is not cut for that type of service.
I agree. And I feel as though, this is my opinion, I don't have the numbers. This is my logic, that they are targeting Black children because Black children face hardships as far as not being able to go to college to afford it. So they are more likely to look at this option as possibly the only option for stability or their first option for stability because college may not be an option. Having a certain GPA, they may not be able to obtain, or being able to pay for SAT prep classes, they may not be able to do. So to target a audience of people who are more than likely going to actually consider this as an option as their career, I can see why they would target minorities. Why wouldn't you target at the same rate or the same amount? Because other children that aren't as impoverished as Black children have other options. I think they're looking at the likelihood, they're looking at the odds of minorities being able to go to venture other places to do other things. Not a lot of Black people have businesses that they can pass down to their children or to their grandchildren, or trust fund they can hand to their grandchildren, or even have an account in their name, life savings that their parents started when they were a kid. So I think they look at it as, we don't have that many options. As Trump, we don't have nothing to lose.
So can we let's explore this for a minute? Let's explore this for a minute. In 2022, whether you're a Black or brown student, right? Let's say Black folks, let's talk about Black students, Black boys, Black girls. In 2022, do you mean to tell me that Black children, Black youth do not have any options outside of the military, or what? Or you mean to tell me they can't go to that Black students can't go to community college or a 4-year college, you mean to tell me black students can't take advantage of some type of trade or skills training, or that black students can't get into the job market if they decide to, until they figure out what their next step will be? Like, when we say they don't have options, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around that, Iman, because I'm like, it's 2022. We have, hell, if it was 2020, we have options.
But Farajii, it's 2022, but things have gotten, as far, especially the economy has gotten even worse. We have kids who are 17 that are parents to their siblings. We have children who are taking care of their siblings while their parent continues to have more children and just puts it on the child. We have a lot of children who are in and out of juvenile system who would have no other option but to be able to go to the military, and hopefully they'll go through the training, and whatever charge they may have may be forgiven. But I'm not saying that they can't have other options or that they most likely don't have other options, but the reason for minorities to be targeted is because it may be looked as they don't have other options. These children have to go straight from school and go to work, or have overnight jobs and come to school. Going to a city school versus a county school in Baltimore, when I say was night and day, from my experience, even elementary school was night and day. So it's a lot of responsibility on these younger children that we may not be experiencing. Then to add social media and having us live up to this certain standard to afford this and afford that, like, it's a lot of pressure on minority children, especially who are in poverty as well. It's a lot of pressure. So I'm not saying they can't or they don't have the option, but stability, the military looks like it provide me stability sooner than later.
I can see that. Recto Hernandez, you checked in on our chat. You said military pays for your rent, all your food, and you can retire in 20 years. With that said,
you have to re-enlist. You can, I think it's like you got to do 4 or 5 years or 5 or 6 years, and you don't have to re-enlist. You can save what you need to save and go ahead and head on out and do something else. Military may be a stepping stone for some students. My older brother, he wound up going to the military, and he's out, so he used it as a stepping stone. But I'm thinking of stability for a lot of these black children.
Okay, and it's part of me is still like and you made the point explicitly clear, and I agree with you that level of stability. But it just seems like, and again, this program started in the 1970s. When you look at where we were in Black America and back in the 1970s, I could at least say socially, there weren't many options for black folks in the 1970s going into the 80s. You know what I mean? Because we were just coming out of the Vietnam War was happening, of course, during that time. So the intention of the military at that time was recruitment. The intention was, we don't have enough men and women, or at that time, we don't have enough men in the ranks. So we need to recruit, right? Like, we need to get things together. But in 2022, and you're talking about 50 years later, if we're still in the same place, this means that socially, economically, we have not made any type of progress for setting up a different future for black children. Now, I'm not saying that military service isn't important, but like I said, military service that's one of those things that's if you want to do it. You don't just be like, I got this skill set, might as well just join the military. That's a whole lifestyle. That's a whole change.
A big lifestyle.
That's huge. You know what I'm saying? Like, if for those who have gone to the military, that was a decision, a conscious decision. That was a decision about, looking at, of course, you could talk about the pay, you could talk about all of that other stuff, but I'm talking about to say, you know what, I'm going to be a member of the United States military. That is a very big decision versus I don't have nothing else to do. I might as well just join the military. And I get it, but part of me is still like, this is a sign that we haven't made the type of progress that we think we have made. Because if that's still on the table where you feel like, you know what, either the streets or the military, then that's a sad state of affairs that we find our community in. And I could be completely wrong, and I'm certainly not being disrespectful, because we got a lot of veterans that tune into the show. And my sister is a veteran. She chose military life. And even I told her, she told me, she's like, man, she joined the Marines. And that thing is rough. That thing was a rough transition from civilian to military life. And I don't know, if she would have made the decision, but she has come out and she's like, whew, there's some challenges in it. So it's very, very interesting. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to continue the conversation. What do you think, folks? Do you think that Black students are being brainwashed to go into military life without their choice, without their consent? Considering that you got JROTC programs that are enrolling more Black and brown students than white students into their programs. Share your thoughts. We'll get to your comments and stay with us. You're tuned into The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking and having this conversation about JROTC programs, going into schools, and essentially working with Black and brown students more than they do with any other student member. Now, this is what we're seeing. This was based on a New York Times analysis of the situation, where they're finding that there was a substantial amount or more, a greater amount of students who are in Black and Latino schools who are being recruited to be a part of the JROTC programs more than white students. And some people are saying, why is that? What is really going on? Now, even though the Army, for example, who has been provided some data, they say, look, this is not about recruitment. This is simply about exposing these students to become capable adults and human beings. They're learning everything from about leadership. They're learning about service. They're learning about themselves. So this is an opportunity to make students better, which is fine, which I think that is necessary. But then there are some other folks who are concerned that some of these schools and districts across the country that are making JROTC involvement mandatory. And I see some of you in our culture crew in the chat, you're saying, well, you know, you're kind of going hard on this. The problem that I'm having is making it mandatory for students. It's not the fact that if a student wants to get into military service, military life based on their own choice, that's certainly fine. I think, like I say, this is military life. Military service is something that you want to do and not being forced to do. But when schools say that it is mandatory, it's necessary, or it's a slap in the face to say that, you know what, your child is so unmanageable that maybe they need to consider going into a more structured environment. And when parents don't feel like they are part of the conversation about the well-being of their children when they're in school and what they're being exposed to, then you're going to have a problem. Let's continue the conversation as we check in with Iman Heath, who is an activist and entrepreneur, and she's giving her insight on this. You know, people are getting a little upset with me, Iman, because we're saying that this may be a recruitment tool, and I'm not saying it. I'm not saying that JROTC automatically means that you're going to be enrolled in the military. Certainly not saying that. But it's the issue of making it mandatory, right? It's the issue that we're seeing greater efforts in Black and brown in population schools that have a student body that are more Black and brown than anything else. That's the issue I'm in. Are you pushing military service to middle class and upper class white students? Are you pushing that? No. According to the analysis, no. It's being pushed to low income, poor whites, poor Blacks, poor Latinos. And I think that should be a concern.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're not saying that, hey, don't go into military service. Again, like Farajii said, if it's your choice, cool. And veterans, I appreciate you, because you damn sure couldn't get me to go to the military. So for those who are willing to dedicate their lives to this, I greatly appreciate it. So I'm not saying it's a bad choice. However, I do believe it's a method to target minorities, because, like I said, it's likelihood that they will go into the military field for stability. As far as it making mandatory, I'm trying to comprehend and understand how you can even make something so permanent or something that is extremely life-changing mandatory for a minor, especially. Like, it's not like these are chronic juvenile criminals who stay out of jail, and you say, hey, your option is to either go to the halfway house or go to the military or come back to jail. I can see it if that was maybe a quote unquote mandatory thing, but just simply a high school student, no, that's not okay whatsoever. It shouldn't be something mandated, okay, especially life changing like that.
It's not okay. And I'm just saying that, and folks, take a look at it. Just pull up the New York Times analysis and report and just read it for yourself. Go to the New York Times website, read it for yourself. It's, again, military service is so important, especially now in this country, right? We understand it's so important. We know that there are great incentives for being a part of the military. You pay for your college. you get discounts, you're able to find homes. I mean, because essentially, let's keep it 100, Iman.
Oh, here you go. Wait a minute.
Here we go. No, I'm just keeping it 100. Essentially, the incentives are great because why? You're sacrificing, and I'm talking about when you make a choice to join the military, you're making the ultimate sacrifice, which is in times of war, you're willing to give your life for the cause, for the country, right? The ultimate sacrifice. The incentives should be juicy. I mean, seriously. The incentives should be, you should pay for my college. You should give me a strong retirement plan. My health and my health insurance should be top notch. My life insurance.
My children should be taken care of.
My children should be able to live after I'm gone. You're damn right. Because I'm deciding to give my life for this country. Therefore, the country needs to take care of my family. Let's keep it where it is. So I understand that. Now, of course, you're going to have leadership skills. You're going to certainly come out with other skills where you can go into a lot of different fields in the civilian life. But the ultimate goal is we're going to make this thing so appealing because when it's time to hit, when them boots got to hit the ground and we call your name, guess what happens?
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You need to serve.
And all things stop, literally. When they come knocking on your door, you get that phone call, that email. Like,
that's it.
That's it.
You signed up for this, bro.
Yeah.
Sis, you signed up for this, right? So since this is such a big decision, you know what I mean? And again, I don't have a problem because I think that every a child should go through somewhat of a military-based structure because, you know, it's good for the child. But I think that part of with parents being a part of the conversation, parents making sure, like, look, if you got a wayward child, you don't throw them into the military.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like that doesn't connect for me. Like your child is off the hook. You got a 17-year-old, you got an 18-year-old. You know what? I can't do nothing with him. Might as well put him into the military where he gets some structure. I don't know if that's the best move.
And it's I forget what school it is. Not really going to the military, but it's for maybe it's just like boot camp. I can't remember. My uncle was one of those troubled youths, and I remember he was sent to boot camp, not the military, but some form of boot camp. That's an option rather than just the military. Like, let's not limit our Black and brown students to just thinking the next option is the military. Now, granted, I have witnessed the JROTC and they, you know, wear the uniform and they know the commands and put up the flag and all that other good stuff. And they present arms, whatever the case may be, at the games, blah, 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 blah. That's cool and whatnot. But the mandatory part is the part I'm having a hard time comprehending. Like, it's like once you graduate, if you put in these many credits, then you have to sign up for the military, or like how can you make something like that mandatory? That's I don't understand that.
and you know what? I want to go back and to your point, I want to go back because I want to let people know because we might be having a conversation using language that goes over people's heads. So I want to be clear. JROTC, Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps. Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps. That's what JROTC stands for, right? So we have to look at that for what it is. Junior Reserve Training, Reserve Officers Training Corps. You're being trained in a certain way, right? Again, I'm talking about just you're trained, and we go through this with jobs. We go through this with any type of programs. We will go through a training because we want to be made qualified to do a certain job, right? And this is yes. When you go for a job training, you're going to learn leadership skills. You're going to learn a different set of skills. You're going to gain some other things. But essentially, you're being trained to do that job, right? And I'm just saying to you that to our watchers that it's not out of far-fetched to believe that a JROTC person, a person who's in charge of the program, they see a young person who has promise, who shows leadership, who is excelling in that JROTC program, do you not think that a person who is in the military is going to say something and say, hey, you ever thought about taking this experience that you learned in high school to the next level? Come on. Now, here's the other element of it. And Damon, you checked in and checked on, and my brother Damon Blissett, you said this. You said that your mother told you would never serve in the military because there's no place for a black man in the military. That's what you were told years ago when you were a child. Has that changed? Has that changed for black people? Black people have benefited from it. My father is a veteran. My sister, like I said, is a veteran. But has the treatment of black people in the military changed so much that you feel comfortable with sending your children into that situation? Has that changed?
Black women are still fighting for sexual harassment. They are still being told, hey, don't say anything. They still don't. I see a lot of, especially on social media, TikTokers, these women that are in the Navy, and they're like, hey, I keep putting this complaint. I keep saying this and saying that. No one's taking me serious. No one is holding anyone accountable. Or there's backlash for speaking up for any type of harassment or mistreatment of a soldier. So I don't feel as though it has changed. And even for civilians, you want me to go fight for this country, but I can easily be killed being unarmed, going to the gas station for a simple meal, or for not having my turn signal on when I change lanes. So that part for me it doesn't make sense. I'll be damn if I fight for a country that won't fight for me.
That's huge. That is really big. That is absolutely right. And again, we got to have that conversation, right? I've had military veterans coming on to this show talking about the greatness of what they have gained. And again, that's beautiful. But we can't overlook or act as if racism doesn't exist, sexism doesn't exist, that we don't, that black men and black women aren't often overlooked to rise up in the military structure. We just celebrated a black man being in the military, and I forgot the brother's name, so y'all have to excuse me. I think he serves as the Secretary of Defense, if I'm not mistaken. But he's like a black man, and I mean, he's been in the military for years. So we got a lot of different dynamics. This is not just an emotional, like, oh no, Farajii, you just going off on a JROTC pro. No, I'm thinking about the historical implications. I'm thinking about where we are in this country. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have no problem. Look, in the Nation of Islam has a military structure, right? Black boys, black girls go through that. I went through that. I know the benefits of it, right? It's like you go through boot camp. It's like you go through, that level of training. There is a structure. There is a benefit to military structure. This is not that conversation. The conversation is being forced to be in a situation without a choice. And I'm talking about, yes, many of you say you can't join the military without consent. But if you are 16 years old and you go to a school that says it's mandatory, you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice in the matter. Unless you talk to your parents and they talk to the administration. All right, let me
I do remember it wasn't always mandatory. I do remember that.
No, it wasn't. That's my point. Come on.
Yeah.
It wasn't always mandatory. And I'm saying some schools, and if that's the school's decision to make it mandatory, I would, as if I was a member of the army or the military, I'd be like, the hell no, do not do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that sheds a bad light on what we are trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
If the school districts made it mandatory, and say not the Army or the Navy or the Air Force or the Marines, don't do that. Because now people are going to look at us and say we're making it mandatory for their child to show up for our program, when in fact we're presenting it as an elective rather than as a class. And there's two different things. Really quick, Lana, you checked, and there isn't anything wrong with the military career. Absolutely not. But this is what happens when we let others tell us what's best for our kids. Parents aren't even fighting anymore. Well, I think parents are fighting, which is why this is having a problem, which is why this has come to the national conversation of Black students. When the numbers look, and again, folks, you can't just be like, oh, this is BS, because if the numbers show that there are more schools that house Black and brown students that are being exposed to this versus white students, then how do you reconcile that? How do you say, well, this is not about race, or this is not about class, or this is not about, you can't say that. You can't say that. Lana, thank you. Mega Cassie, you said my child has seen the obscene amount of pain I am always in and the things his father goes through. And he's like, nope, no, thank you. Talking about being in the military. These are the stories that we don't hear on the other side. Mega Cassie, thank you so much. And I hope that you are continuing to recover from your service. And we thank you for your service. Sandy, you checked in and said, if the kids are poor, then most likely the government taking care of them anyway. Not a great analogy to me. Their life hasn't changed. I don't know.
We gotta take a break, so I'm not gonna say.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure if are you saying that like we should just allow the government this? I'm not sure. Sandy, you got to clarify that for me very quickly. And then Conscious Thoughts, you said we must remember that the U.S. education system was never made for us to benefit from. Talking to Lana, kids are graduating now and can't read. This war is set up for them to fail.
No child left behind was the worst.
Again, so you're talking about being functionally illiterate. Well, functionally literate, right? Yeah. Where you could just basic concepts you can understand, but not comprehensively understand certain things. Folks, we're in a different time. We're in a different time. And I as we wrap up this conversation very quickly, I think that we should have more discussions about whether Black children or Black youth should look at military as an option. But this is about choice. This is not about making a mandate. This is not about to throw shade on anybody that has served. We thank you for your service, but this is about choice. In a school setting with teenagers, this is about choice. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's switch gears. Let's talk about the work landscape that we find ourselves in. And I'm going to share with you the story of one man who has said that he was simply fired from his job because he did not partake in the team building fun activities. Well, guess what he did? He decided to sue his job, and guess what? He won. And I'm asking the question, should you be penalized for not being a part of your job's fun building activities? So we'll have that conversation. And then later, I'm going to tell you what the city of Minneapolis is doing for the legacy of George Floyd and how this could be the beginning of a trend in other cities across this country. Stay with us. A lot of conversation still left right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, peace and welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. Folks, we are going to shift gears and have another conversation. And let me just say this before we move back, and let's bring Iman into the frame here. Iman, I know that conversation has certainly got a lot of people trying to figure out, like where you know, a little upset. But look, folks, and I'm not going to keep harping on this because I do want to touch on some other discussions. But, and Sandy, you're saying that, and I want to make sure, because y'all know how I feel, I do not want to misrepresent your comments. So, Sandy, I want to first get to you. You make the point that, and you said this to Lana, I was responding to something he said, but I don't want any kid to do something unless they want to do it. Okay. So, Sandy, to your point, you're saying that unless a child wants to be brought into the conversation, making that choice, that, you know, they shouldn't be forced to do it. I totally understand it. Okay. I guess, and I'm going to just let my team know, Sandy, that when we have those kind of continuation conversations, not always, just don't pull the comment out of context. Because while I'm reading them, you know what I mean, we can have one view and you're like, no, I was responding to somebody else, and we're not a part of that conversation. So I don't want you to misinterpret, and I don't want you to feel like we're just misinterpreting what you're saying, anything like that, Sandy. So again, my apologies if you feel like, you know, I didn't get to the point of your comment, but you did clear it up and say, look, I'm just saying that a child should have some level of choice, especially in high school, folks, especially in high school. But I know that there are a lot of varying opinions about this. And Sophia checked in, and Sophia's expressed some frustration. Sophia, I did not say that JROTC is the same as military service. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it. Just because you're part of the JROTC program doesn't mean you enroll in the military. I get that. But these programs, and I'm just saying to you, these programs are set up in a way to introduce the idea. It's like, Iman, I'm trying to think. Have you ever been a part of a program as a child that was made for children, but it was connected to something bigger, or like a bigger institution?
Yep, middle school, step team. It was actually a young lady, I forget her name, who was a part of a sorority that taught us those steps and what to do, how to stroll and all of that. So it could have been a way to say, hey, you know, Greek life isn't bad. Could have been. Might have been. So yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And I'm not saying, look, these are programs, and I'm saying from the programmatic point of view, if the military is setting up a program for its students, right, their values, their belief system, their philosophy is going to be installed in that program designed for children, designed for young people.
Our problem is that it is primarily being exposed to minority children. That's what we're saying. That's the problem. Not only is it being exposed, but it's being mandated. That's the part where we're stuck at. No, you're not in the military if you enrolled to JROTC. Of course not. And it can be a good thing for some students who may need that discipline or looking for that structure that they don't have at home. Cool, that's fine. But to mandate it is different. I can see if you're exposing them to say, hey, you know, try this out. They may be something that you like, or before you make the final decision to join the military, let's just give you a little glimpse of what the day-to-day things may be, or just the small thing that they do. Because we're not taking away from the military. And boot camp is anything compared to any branches of the nation's defense, but for it to be primarily targeted at Black and brown children is the problem.
Right.
Not the program, but the objective is the problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Deshaun, you brought up this point. Can you add actual subject matter experts? We do that all the time. But then there are some subject matters that we should just discuss, right? Like we should just discuss. Because even if you have experts on here, if I have an expert from the JROTC program, we know we can kind of expect what they're going to say. They're going to say, no, our program is this and program is that. These certain conversations we just need to discuss as just a community.
And the numbers don't lie. It don't matter who we have on the show to say whatever. The numbers are still there. The numbers are still what they are.
Right. Like we that's the problem. Like we're talking about processing this. This is not just presenting information. This is processing what has been determined based upon some data. So and one of the things that we often don't do enough of in our culture is that we don't take time to process information about what's going on with us. And I'm saying process it within the community. So you don't always need a guest expert to talk about it because you know what they're going to say. But for us, it's like, okay, let's take time to let's look at this. Okay, the New York Times put this out. They did the legwork of putting together these numbers. How do we feel about it as a community?
That's we're the ones that are affected, and we're the ones that will be able to make a change to it if we don't like it.
Absolutely. So I hope, Deshaun, that you understand the intent of this conversation and the approach that we're taking, because it's not always about hearing from the quote unquote the experts. We are the experts because these are the things that impact us as the community. We are the culture. So if we are the culture, I don't know about you, Ma, I'm tired of hearing from people who are dictating the culture and not hearing from the people who are affected by the culture.
Exactly. The outside is speaking rather than the inside.
Yeah, I mean, I get where people are. I trust and believe. I love expert voices. But sometimes it's like, when you're around the kitchen table or the dinner table, you at the barbershop, those conversations are more enlightening than the ones that you would, if you were to sit down with an expert. Because they're going to give you in a very organic way. And that's what this program is all about. Let's have some organic conversations. You don't always need to have the doctor, the lawyer, this and that. I'm talking about our culture. We are part of the culture. We are the culture. We are affected by the culture that is generated by other people. No, we can be the experts because this impacts us.
Very true.
Our voice is just as powerful as an expert's voice, quote unquote, expert's voice.
I agree. And white coat syndrome doesn't exist just in the health field. Just because a person is a part of the program or wears the uniform, whatever it may be, doesn't mean they're solely the expert and let's only listen and follow them. Right. That's where we get messed up at now as a whole.
Absolutely. And let's keep it real. We don't listen to experts.
The expert said you gotta stop eating that chicken because your blood pressure high, but you still going to hip hop. Okay. Oh, all right.
Think about how many experts have told us how to live our lives.
Yeah. And it's in shambles or going in the wrong direction because we didn't listen.
And we don't listen to them. You are more prone. Look, we are more prone to listen to family and friends than we are to listening to an outside voice, an expert, quote unquote. We are more prone to listen to family, and family and friends can give us the wrongest. I'm gonna make up a word. The wrongest information ever.
And we'll hold on to it.
We'll hold tight to that information.
And spread it though. We'll spread the wrong information because grandma said from 40 years ago that this is how this is supposed to go. That ain't it.
Wrong like 2 left feet, man. We'll spread it, just spreading this information, right? Because grandma said it. No, I heard, and I heard. Where you hear from?
Right. Who I heard?
And we go by it, we live on it, we die on it.
No, real.
On hearsay. On hearsay. Come on, folks. Let's keep it real. Black folks do not always listen to expert voices. We have so many great people that have come before us in a lot of different spaces. And guess what? We still go back. We walk away from the expert and be like, well, shit, I ain't doing that.
It ain't. I've been fine all this time. Or it's been working all this time. Okay. Oh, all right.
Let's move on, man. Let's move on. All right, look. Let's talk about this situation that we saw, and this is actually in Paris, but it got me thinking. It was reported. Take a look at this, folks. And I'm asking the question: should you be punished for being antisocial at work? Iman, you and I probably have worked collectively, probably 100 jobs. Probably been in so many different places. I've had so many different damn jobs. It's crazy. It's crazy. The only thing that has the only stable job has been in media. That's the funniest thing, like radio and TV. All right, so a man from Paris. Take a look at this. Here's the report. There was it was recently reported that the French court. Take a look. Man wins a lawsuit in a fight to be antisocial at his job. It was recently reported that the French court ruled companies aren't legally able to fire their workers for failing to be quote unquote fun. The decision came after a man referenced as Mr. T was fired from a Cubic Partners, which is a Paris consultancy firm, in 2015 following his refusal to partake in social and team building activities. Court documents show that Mr. T was hired by the firm in 2011, promoted in February 2014, and fired a year later in March 2015 for professional incompetence. His former employer said Mr. T was difficult to work and get along with being a poor listener. That's why they really fired him. According to Business Insider report, Mr. T's call for damages in the amount of 61,406 euros, which equated to about $479,000, was partially granted and ordered Cubic Partners to pay Mr. T 3,000 euros, which was equated to about $3,149 in American dollars. So he won for being antisocial at his job. And it made me ask the question, Iman, should you be punished for being antisocial at your work?
You know, it's funny you ask me this.
Why?
Because I've been disciplined for not being the social butterfly at a job I had previously.
Really?
This is Farajii. If the people don't like you or you don't smile and grin at everyone's face, then you're along with. I don't think you should be penalized for not wanting to be social. For example, if I don't like none of y'all on this job, or maybe I just like two of y'all, I don't have to go to your Christmas party because I don't want to. Now, as maybe being standoffish, okay, maybe, but is my job being compromised? Am I not doing my assignments on time? Am I showing up late to work? Like, the stuff that matters is the problem. Why do we have to be social and be so he with everybody at work? Is the job getting done? Okay, cool. Leave me the hell alone.
So you were disciplined because they didn't like you because you didn't bring. And what? How did they call this guy? They said because of professional incompetence, right? And I think that is, but what? How did they describe your issue? According to the records,
I was affecting the morale in the office. I didn't want to participate. I was messing up the energy. As far as the team, I was being difficult. So I'm being difficult because I don't want to go along with this extra stuff y'all saying I got to do that I really not required to do, but y'all making this up to help morale. I'm all for the team. Don't get me wrong. I played a sport that requires you to be a part of a team for years. However, at work, just because I don't want to go out after work to get drinks or something, they would never say get drinks. But if I don't want to go with you guys after work to discuss how to increase, I don't know, I'll say decrease or help retention as far as customers, first of all, it's outside my work hours. That's number one. I'm clocking it from 8:30 to 4:30. 4:30 and y'all not paying me to go have drinks to talk about retention. So, Farajii, listen.
Hold on, Iman.
I was being difficult.
Yo, y'all know Black folks, we get very, very particular when it comes to closing time, when it's time to get off work, and how we spend our time after work. Now, I don't know. I love my job. Okay, so I don't have this problem, but I have been in workspaces where it's like, y'all cool, but come 5 o'clock, I'm out.
Y'all not that cool. Y'all not that cool. I'm going home.
I'm going home. One of my previous employment, they always hung out. And I think they probably thought I was antisocial. Bro, I'm not in my 20s. I don't hang out just to be hanging out with my people that I have to see for 7-8 hours. You know what I'm saying?
5 days
out the family. I got a whole life. So if I'm going to a place, first and foremost, it can't just be very like, hey, y'all want to hang out tonight? It's like, you got to schedule that time with me because I got my whole other life to try to consider and accommodate too. Right?
That's another problem with jobs. They feel as though that your life is supposed to be the job. That ain't it. No, I don't have to make the livelihood of this job my life. My most recent job before I became an entrepreneur, it's like you wanted me to work from literally 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. from open to close. Okay, cool. As a store manager, I was getting paid a good amount of money. Okay, that's fine. However, I have a life outside of this job, and this job isn't my life. It isn't the end all be all. I can get what I can get done at 7 o'clock, but don't call me on Saturday. Hey, we're making sales strategies. Blah 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 blah. Do you want me to say Red Lobster? No, I don't. In the email, I'm gonna go ahead about my business, but I'm being difficult because I don't want to participate. Like what? I'm not making this up.
Hold up, yo. Hold up. First thing, I know you ain't calling me I know you ain't calling me to set up no meeting on a Saturday to talk about job stuff.
But you're okay. I can even see.
And I'm not getting paid overtime for this.
And I'm gonna come have cheddar bay just
look, that joint could be at Fogo de Chao
for free, and I ain't going.
I ain't coming. Look. Let me tell you something. Look, Iman, this is what I've learned in life. And y'all culture crew, y'all tell me if y'all came across to the same moment of clarity. Money come and go, but time, once you spend time, you never get it back. My time is more important than money in some cases.
Very true. And honestly, it's not about being antisocial because I won't conform. I don't mean me, Iman, personally, but because the person won't conform to what you want them to do or conform to the work lifestyle you want them to have. That's when disciplinary action comes in. That's when the labels of being antisocial or being difficult or being standoffish come in because I won't go along with what you want me to do. It's not a requirement. It's your desire. So because I don't fulfill the desire that you want as far as what my work life may look like for you, I'm the problem. No. No. Yeah, especially older people. I'm going to go ahead and keep it real.
Come on.
Older people, the baby boomers, I was the youngest person in my office by 15 years. No exaggeration.
Wow.
So when I say I was the oddball on top of being difficult, man, I might got a loss.
They were just hating on you, Iman. Because you had a life. Because you had they were probably like, she probably got a date. She probably got a date, girl.
And
you know what?
And did. I was in school full time at the time too. I gotta go to class. On top of that, like
you know what? I don't know what you do when you at 56 and 50 years old. You may not have something to do on a Friday night, but I do.
I gotta go get my hair done.
But I do.
I gotta get my nails done.
And let me tell you, I'm petty like this. They be like, well, you busy? knowing damn well I'm just going to go home and watch Netflix. Yep, I'm busy.
Yeah.
Because guess what? It's my time.
Yep. Yep.
Now, if it's a work retreat, I get it. There's a calendar for that. But if it's just some impromptu, hey, man, you want to hang out with us? You want to spend more time around us? And I've been in situations where I could tell that my coworkers wasn't vibing with me because I didn't hang out with them till midnight to come wake back up and be back at the job at 9 o'clock in the morning, as if I don't have responsibilities. Y'all don't have no family. You ain't got no children. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not in my 20s no more. Like, I just can't just make those decisions. Like, when I make a decision, my wife expects me to be home. And so, I think that especially now, and this is one of the things that was brought up in this article, especially now with COVID and how workforce, the work has changed for so many people, that companies need to step up. I'm glad, and this has happened in Paris, but I'm glad that in that part of in France, that they're saying, no, you cannot penalize somebody just because they don't want to do extra time, spend all this extra time. Look, work retreats is one thing, business meetings is another thing. But if you're talking about, team building activities during periods of time where a person would normally be with their family, they will be at home. You know what I'm saying? Like, no job, I'm sorry, and I've said this before.
That's intrusive.
No job is that much more important. I'm talking about, of course, if you're a doctor or a police officer or something, that's one thing. But I'm talking about administrative office-based job. Man, that shit can wait till Monday, man.
I'll holler at y'all Monday.
You're not going to call me in on Friday. Let's hang out on Saturday. We got a company picnic on Sunday and then be back on. No.
Nope.
Something's got to give. I'm not showing up at one of these situations. And hopefully it's that Monday. I don't show up on Monday because I was at the company picnic. Oh, now you'd be like, no, I was at the company picnic. You were looking healthy yesterday. Yeah, I called in sick on Monday.
I caught something real quick.
I caught something while at the company picnic. I was caught something while at the company picnic. You look at the person, hey, you give them that look like I caught something.
Don't ask me nothing else.
Don't ask me nothing else. Let me go to what my culture crew is saying about this. Damon, you said time is money. Let me tell you, that's Damon. You know it, and I know it, brother. When you get older, that's the only thing that you go. Time is money. Money can come and go. I've had money, now I have lost money and all that. Man, my time is important to me now. Time is money. Vincent Morales, my guy, you said time is the most precious thing you have. Once it's gone, it's gone. You can't get it back. You can't give me my time back.
At all.
You can't give me my time back. I don't care how much you pay for the time. I've literally turned down opportunities because it was great pay for the amount of time, but it was just the simple fact that you're taking up my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Iman, you in business for yourself.
And
if somebody,
Iman
is a stylist, y'all. Iman is a stylist. She does hair, she does nails, she's a stylist. So, but imagine if, Iman, you go through your day, you get off it says it's a Saturday night. You're like, damn, I've been at the salon all day. I've been doing this, all that. And somebody comes through to your doors at 8:30 on Saturday night. They're like, girl, I'll pay you $500. Now, you might say, man, that's a lot of good money. But if you've been on your feet since 8 a.m.,
yeah, I appreciate you, but no,
I'm not doing
I'm going home. I'm tired.
Especially if it's a 2-hour situation. It's a situation that's going to cause you to leave 2 hours later. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing it. But time is money. Absolutely. Let me see here. Karen, you said, Farajii, beyond mandatory requirements, it is better to keep professional and personal lives separate. People who socialize too much together often end up stabbing each other in the back. Woo! They know too much. Karen, they know too much about you. You get a couple of drinks in you. You know what I'm saying?
That's how Amigos get the flowing and your mouth don't stop.
I don't do the drinking, but it's like, yo, you're getting too lax. And sometimes there's too much. You don't know who is able to keep it professional and then or versus who's going to take it personal.
Especially when it's after the job when it comes to sexual harassment.
Oh man.
Men see you in different clothes and start giving you a harder little side eye than he was in the office.
Right.
Now you're spending a little too much, Mr. Johnson. Let's hold our comments, please. Then now we have a whole other situation that didn't happen on the clock, but it's now an issue because I work with you on the clock. It's too many.
And then if it becomes questionable, it's like when he could say, Mr. Johnson could say, well, we weren't on the clock, so you can't say that it was sexual harassment.
Now we got a bigger situation. If y'all just left everybody alone and had us work from 8:30 to 4:30, let us be. Wouldn't be this problem.
Hey, Devon, one of the most famous scenes from the great movie, The 5 Heartbeats. Y'all know when Big Red said, my office hours. When he was holding that thing, my office hours is from 9 to 5. Don't ask me for more. I'm not being antisocial. I just don't want to be anti-you after 5.
I have boundaries. Respect my boundaries.
Karen said it. You got to have boundaries. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about George Floyd and what the city of Minneapolis is doing to honor our brother and how this could potentially open the conversations for other cities to follow suit. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, for our final conversation today, I wanted to end the show on a high note where we're talking about George Floyd. Now, of course, we know that our brother was the victim of a police killing that was caught on camera by onlookers, where former police officer Derek Chauvin of the Minneapolis Police had put his knee on the neck of our brother back in 2020. Now, at that intersection, what we don't know is that all took place in front of a Speedway gas station, and it was an intersection that became a impromptu memorial site. Well, now the Minneapolis, the city of Minneapolis is looking to do something with that intersection, and this is what I think is absolutely phenomenal. They have voted, according to the reports, Minneapolis has voted to buy the now closed Speedway gas station at the intersection where the killing of George Floyd occurred 2 years ago and remodel it into a racial justice healing center and memorial for the deceased Floyd, according to the newspaper there, the Star Tribune. Now, last week, the city council unanimously voted to buy the gas station that has been home to protests ever since Derek Chauvin stood on Floyd's neck for nearly 10 minutes, killing the 46-year-old black man. Now, according to the Star Tribune newspaper, the council approved spending $200,000 in taxpayer funds and accepting the equivalent of a $420,000 donation from the owner to acquire the parcel, which likely sits atop contaminated soil from years of use as a gas station. The official acquisition will likely happen in the first few months of 2023. The city's immediate plans are to secure the building, which formerly housed a convenience store and has been a concern for some time. Here, let me just share with you, let's bring Iman back into this. Here's the site, folks, of George Floyd murder to become a place for healing. I can't be more excited. It's a boarded up gas station that's going to become a healing center. I think this is a beautiful memorial. I thought this was such a great idea for the city to do something like this. The owner, and I mean, he put up some money, $420,000. The city already got some money as well. But this is such a beautiful idea that it's not just a memorial, it's a healing center. And I hope that the folks in that community will be at the table throughout this whole process. I mean, right now it's just still at the beginning stages, obviously, to make sure the city can buy the land and get the space. But I thought this was a great idea, Iman. I was like, here in LA, if you go by, for example, if they had a healing center for George Floyd, a racial justice healing center, here in LA, if you go to where Nipsey Hussle was killed, right now, that space, and Karen Connor Young, I'm sure you've seen this as well, sis. And those of you who live in LA, y'all know that it's really fenced off. Like for months after Nipsey was killed, it was kind of serving as like this memorial space. There were wreaths on there, there were flowers and everything. All of that has been cleared. It now looks like a condemned building, right? There are a couple of pictures of Nipsey still on the walls there. But you really wouldn't know that it was at that space that our beloved brother was shot and murdered. And I was thinking to myself, as I was reading about this George Floyd thing, I was like, damn, imagine if in LA, we got a new mayor, you had that space turned into the Nipsey Hussle Stop the Violence Peace Center.
That's what I was saying. I hope this George Floyd memorial grows into not just for racial injustice, but also when young brothers are killed by other young brothers. This can be a place where people can go for healing or just to talk or get something off their chest. And other than just when it comes to a black man being killed by a white man or by the police. So I hope it grows into a center like that, where it's like a peace type of thing across the board when it comes to violence, especially gun violence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it made me think that this is something that could potentially be proposed for other places, for other spaces around the country. Of course, in Baltimore.
We have some here in Baltimore. We do have some of those.
Freddie Gray, well, we know Freddie Gray was killed in the back of the police, but something close to where he grew up in Sandtown, Windsor.
Yeah, on Utah Street.
On Utah Street.
Utah Street empowered the Freddie Gray empowerment. Yeah.
Where we did absolutely. Where we did where we held the meetings for the Justice or Else organizing committee. You know, but if there were, and I don't know, you know, like in Texas, I think that was Texas, where our sister Sandra Bland. If you go through each major case, and even some of the cases that didn't get national prominence, right? Whether you're talking about the Sandra Bland, when you talk, like, how do we make sure that these lives aren't forgotten and they are protected, and that there is some symbol of healing, of peace? Because at the end of the day, I think that's the best way that we can honor those brothers and sisters, right? How do we make that happen? And if cities across the country would pick up the mantle that we see in Minneapolis, if here in LA, they you know, the man said, okay, let's turn this place into a Stop the Violence Peace Center where Black men can get mediation services, where Black men and Black women can learn about conflict resolution and other things. Like, you could turn these spaces into positive spaces, and they will be deemed, quote unquote, sacred spaces. So there's not going to be no shooting around these in that space. There's going to be no killing. That you create like these peace centers. And I'm thinking that in every state across this country, Iman, there has been a case where a Black man or Black woman have lost their lives either by police or at the hands of somebody, of maybe one of us, unjustifiably. How do you remember? How do you honor those individuals, right? And there's a way to do it. And I was really excited to hear about what's happening in Minneapolis. And I thought to myself, like, damn, I hope that the city is able to move forward and make it a big deal so the rest of the country can say, you know what? We have cases like this that has really struck a chord with the community, really struck a chord with folks around this country. We need to make sure that we kind of institutionalize something different. It's good to have a wreath, but wreaths, they wither away. It's good to have, you know, markings, but they can be washed away. But a building, a place that people can go, a memorial
These
site.
memorials can be the middle ground for even law enforcement and civilians to finally get some type of communication or rapport. Like, okay, hey, if you're going to be here in this community, or this is what we require and what we need, understand you don't got to take it this far. Or maybe they can start getting familiar with the local neighborhood and the faces that are there, or at least talk about the differences or issues that we've had on both sides. I'm sure officers have things they want to share as far as traumas, maybe when they actually were scared, and don't just say I'm scared because it's a Black man. But I think that could also be a middle ground for law enforcement and civilians to finally at least get the conversation started.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of the big things that I think that as the community, we should kind of push for it a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when I thought about this, I was like, man, I want to know how we can do something like that here in LA. You know what I mean? Because these cities need it. And the big thing that I think that we don't understand, or some of us may understand and others may not. When somebody dies in such a tragic way, that energy, that spirit is still there.
Yeah.
Until that spirit, that energy is kind of like redirected into something more positive. Like, there's no way in the world that I can walk by the site of where George Floyd lost his life as a result of the satanic behavior of Derek Chauvin and not think about his death. How can we change that? Because that energy of death is always going to be present. Like when I saw Nipsey Hussle, when I saw that before I moved here, when I saw that, you could still feel it in the air, in the atmosphere. And it's like, you know, as a community, when Black communities, part of the reason why we don't see the growth and the disparity and the disrepair of Black communities, because there's the energy of death that is still present in our community, right? We never changed the energy. It's like death happens, we accept it, and then we move on. Instead of death happens, we accept it, and then we redirect that energy into an energy of healing, into an energy of love, into something more positive. So, you might see a body on the ground today. Come tomorrow, people are walking down the street like nobody that hasn't even died in that space.
Yeah. Like
but you can still feel it. You can still feel it. You know what I'm saying? And by us being the type of people that we are a visceral people. So we can still feel it. And it's just like, let's put certain things to rest. Like, let those who have lost their lives unjustifiably, those who have just lost their lives in a violent way. You know, for example, there is, what's the group that, Iman, they go in Baltimore, not Safe Streets. Man, the name. No, these are the brothers and sisters who come into a space. And my sister, like one of my close sisters, Erica Bridgeford and others who do the work, they go into a space. When they go into a space after murder has happened, these brothers and sisters will go and cease fire. That's what it's called, cease fire. And in cease fire, they will go to a neighborhood after murder happened. And before they do any programmatic thing, they will take the sage, they will take other, they will go and do this whole ritual. Right? It's a spiritual ritual. Say a prayer, they will sage the space. And I'm talking about on the outside, folks. They will do this whole ritual to rid the space of negative death energy before they start the work of.
And that's what's needed.
And you know what I'm saying? And I feel like that needs to be done more. You can't just, it's like somebody dying in your home.
Yeah.
If somebody dies in your home, you can't just be like, you have to, I don't know the best word, and I don't want to say cleanse the space, but you have to purify the space.
Help that energy transition.
Right. There needs to be there. And so, it's just that type of thing. So if we can do that as a community in the cities across this country, I think that will bring some sort of peaceful resolution to the pain that was caused by the untimely death of that person, of that loved one.
I agree.
So big shout out to, one of our culture creators, they say, Farajii, not Minneapolis. How do you say that? I sometimes I've heard it in, y'all, I'm from Baltimore, y'all gotta excuse me. I don't mean to take out some letters, but I've heard it so many different ways. We will just say Minnesota.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Y'all know who we're talking about.
Disrespectful. But yeah, so I mean, it's just like we do have to resolve that spirit. So big shout out to the city to making sure that they do it. Hopefully it all works out. And more importantly, we can't never forget about the sacrifice of the life of George Floyd beyond just a protest. He didn't know he would be in that space to be a catalyst for a movement, but that's how God works sometimes, right? Your life, you might lose your life, but bring other people's, you bringing other people to life through your death.
Yeah.
And so we just gotta respect that. So big shout out to that, and big shout out to all of the victims who have lost their lives unjustifiably because of police and because of our own hatred of black on black violence. So it's never a beautiful thing. It's never a good thing. Never a good thing. Iman, I appreciate you for checking in on Tuesdays. Is there anything that we need to talk about? Any events or any upcoming activities that you are part of?
Continue to look at your politics. As far as in Baltimore, Westmore is open house, not open house, town hall meetings. You are in public, are invited to come. They are going on throughout this entire week. So please pay attention. If you're on Instagram, go to his Instagram. He'll show you which ones are being which ones will be hosted. I know I will be up to equal opportunity and law enforcement. So it is happening all this week. It is open to the public. Please make sure you come down and voice your opinion. Say what you got to say. This is your time to start getting the ball rolling to change, especially here in Baltimore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And big shout out again to our brother Westmore, first black man and first black person and to be elected to the office of governor. When does he become when is his inauguration? We just had Karen Bass' inauguration on Sunday here. So when is his inauguration?
It's definitely going to be sometime in January, I believe. Okay. I haven't gotten any official information yet, but I know it's most likely it's going to be sometime in January.
That's going to be awesome. That is going to be awesome. Yeah. I know you will be. I know you will be. I wasn't at Karen Bass's inauguration.
And everything.
I wasn't at the Karen Bass inauguration, but we were certainly there for the homecoming event that we had, the date that happened.
I saw it was outside.
At Leimert Park. So we had a chance to connect with her just for a moment and just say hi and wish her congratulations. But trust and believe, you know what I'm saying? We still working. We still working. So Iman, thank you so much. And, for putting all the work that you do. Thank you for your analysis today. And certainly thank you for being so good for the culture. We truly appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. We'll see y'all next week.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you for being a part of the conversation. Johnson, I saw you say use the word cleanse. That's okay. We can. So, you know what? I like that. Let's use the word cleanse. We got to cleanse the space to make sure that life can take place in these spaces. So big shout out, man, for the city, for Minneapolis. I'm saying it wrong, but don't beat me up, y'all. But I thank y'all so much for tuning in. Make sure y'all continue to show your support for Black Star Network. Go to our website, blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Continue to give to support the work that we're doing. And most importantly, share the content as we continually put out new content. Roland is always on the move. He spoke at Jackson State University the other day. So definitely check out all the streaming content that we have going on right now. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network on IG and Twitter. And also follow yours truly, Farajii Muhammad. You can follow me on social media at The Real Farajii on IG and Farajii on Twitter. I thank y'all for tuning in. Stay tuned. Up next is RMU at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be streaming here. So make sure y'all stick around for that. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Have a great and safe afternoon and evening. Talk to you tomorrow. Peace.